Hello! Pizza Pax here, and we're back with Throwback Thursday, episode number 22. Today we have another one of the 1998 World Championship decks. This is the one played by Randy Buehler, which he took to 12th place. This is also the Collector's Edition version. It's the limited edition deck and video, which they did these for all of the decks. Unfortunately, I only have 3 of the 4 decks in this format, but the videos are exactly the same. The decks are exactly the same. The only difference is this outer sleeve. And the funny thing is, the outer sleeve actually all has the same product and ISBN number. So there's really no reason I should have gotten any of the limited edition ones except for one. But when I was buying them, I happened to be able to find the limited edition ones that I purchased faster. So is a whole thing. And finding these decks sealed is a bit of a challenge. And a little more expensive than buying them loose. Largely because of, well, Commander players. The decks in these aren't tournament legal, but many Commander tables do allow them. No shade at Commander players. I totally understand, you know, getting the cards you want for your deck however you can. It's just, in my specific case, it is a little frustrating because I do want to do a full series of videos on these decks, and it drives up the price. Some of which to hundreds, if not thousands of dollars more than what they should be. Especially considering that these originally retailed, I think, at $10. But it is what it is. But we will do the video in its own separate video at some point. I need to find a VCR in order to do that. I own 2. It's just figuring out where I put them. But let's take a look at Randy Buehler's deck. He took 12th place playing a draw go deck. If I remember correctly, it is blue-white. So let's pull in and take a look at this. All right. Ooh. Some goodies in here. So, the deck contents. There's 18 islands from Tempest, apparently. 4 quicksand. 4 stalking stones. 1 rainbow ifrit. 4 counterspell. 4 dismiss. 2 dissipate. 3 forbid. 4 force spike. 4 impulse. 3 mana leak. 1 memory lapse. 4 Nevinral's Disc, and 4 Whispers of the Muse. Then sideboard has 2 Capsize, 1 Grindstone, 4 Hydroblast, 4 Sea Sprite, and 4 Wasteland. Interesting. Huh. Okay. And as you can see, it has the Seattle August 1998 World Championships card back. Eventually we'll go back and do 97. There's these lovely proxy cards. Of all the things that tend to be missing in these decks are these things. People love to use them for artist proofs. I have to say I've got a few artist proofs on these kinds of cards. Let's see. Collect all 4 World Championship decks. Then it covers Brian Selden, the World Champion, Ben Rubin, finalist, which we did last week. Brian Hacker, quarterfinalist, which we'll take a look at that one probably next week. And Randy Buehler, 12th place, which is this one. Randy Buehler's Draw Go deck is pure control with over 20 counter spells and 8 card draw engines to dig them out. The card's offense is limited to Stalking Stones and a single Rainbow Ifrit, but the best offense is often a killer defense. Nice. So let's start with the sideboard. Probably the most expensive card in this, Grindstone. Of course, a core part of Painter Servant combo these days. But it's a 1-mana artifact that you pay 3 and tap it to put the top 2 cards of target player's library into that player's graveyard. If both of those cards share at least 1 color, repeat this process. Now, this did get a breaking news print in Outlaws of Thunder Junction, so the price has come down a bit. But at one point, these were upwards of $50. We have Capsize. Really fun card. 1 blue for an instant with buyback 3. You may pay an additional 3 when you play the spell. If you do, put it into your hand instead of your graveyard as part of the spell's effect. Return target permanent to its owner's hand. This used to be an absolute menace in Commander. Now people more rely on Cyclonic Rift, but this is still a great way to handle things if you have infinite mana, or just a lot of mana. 6 mana to bounce somebody's land can be pretty disruptive, or just the 3 to cast it normally. We have 2 of those. And we have 4 Wasteland. Wasteland, of course, absolute powerhouse since it was printed. Taps for a colorless. Tap and sacrifice it. Destroy target non-basic land. Still a core part of Legacy today. And shows up quite a bit in Vintage as well. We have 4 of those. We have Sea Sprite. This is the tech we used to have to do against Mono Red. 1 and a blue for a 1/1 fairy with flying and protection from red. We have 4 copies of that. Hydroblast. For a blue, you have an Interrupt, now an instant. Counter target spell if it is red, or destroy target permanent if it is red. Cool fact about this and Pyroblast, these can target a permanent of any color, or even colorless. They can target a spell of any color, even colorless. They just only do something if it's a red one. 4 copies of Hydroblast. Also one of my favorite arts by Kaya Foglio. Let's see. Now we have a little blurb about Randy Buehler. 12th place. Although 26-year-old professional Magic player Randy Buehler from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania didn't make the top 8, he did finish with an impressive 6-1 record due to the standard portion of the World Championships. Buehler's Draw Go deck is built for pure control with over 20 counters. He uses 8 card drawing spells to get his counters more quickly, and only 4 Stalking Stones and 1 Rainbow Efreet for offensive power. Buehler said he won some games without ever having to tap a land for mana on his own turn. Very nice. Now, I believe this had a split of standard, which I think it just got the name standard at this point, and sealed. So. All right, one of the win conditions of the deck, Stalking Stones. It's a land that taps for a colorless, and then for 6, you can turn it into a 3/3 artifact creature. It doesn't turn back at end of turn. It's just forever a creature. That is still a land. We have 4 of those. Awesome art by Stephen Danielle. We have Quicksand. It's a land that taps for a colorless, and then tap and sacrifice it to give target attacking creature without flying -1/-2 until end of turn. Art by Roger Raup. We have 4 of those. Quicksand is one of my favorite lands of all time. We have some islands by Randy Gallegos. I believe there's 18 islands in this. And all of these should be Tempest Islands with art by Randy Gallegos. Yeah. Very nice. Next, we have Whispers of the Muse. Fantastic draw engine that up until fairly recently still saw play in Pauper. But for a blue, you get an instant with buyback 5, draw a card. So for 6 mana at the end of, basically, you spend 6 mana at the end of your opponent's turn to draw a card. Every turn. And absolutely classic art of Krovax, and I forget if that's Selena or someone else. It's a Muse, so it's someone else. With just absolutely iconic art by Quentin Hoover. We have 4 copies of Whispers of the Muse. Next we have Impulse. 1 in a blue, instant. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library. Now this Visions version actually has a misprint, where it says shuffle your library afterwards. Modern printings of it do not have that, and this was actually errata when Visions was in print to omit the shuffle your library afterwards. And absolutely iconic art by Brian Talbot. Love the art for this version. We have 4 copies of Impulse. So we have Rainbow Ifrit. Absolutely amazing threat with phasing, but for 3 and a blue, you get a 3/1 Ifrit with flying, and you pay blue to phase it out. With just absolutely classic art by Natalie Hertz, and quote by Teferi. A beauty made more so by its fleeting visitations. Next we have Nevi's disc, Nevinral's disc. Absolutely classic with art by Mark Tedden. See this all the time in Old School, even today. It still shows up in pre-modern every now and then. And recently, I believe, was made to be modern legal. But it's 4 mana artifact that comes into play tapped. Pay 1 and tap it to destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. Now, keep in mind that does not sacrifice, but it does get destroyed by its own effect. So if you can give this indestructible, especially if you can give it indestructible permanently, you can just blow everything up. Well, sort of. All artifacts, creatures, and enchantments as many times as you want. So also a neat trick that you could do with this, which was activate it, and then if you had a way to untap it, you could activate it again, which doesn't do anything most of the time, but it can have some neat implications. We have 4 copies of Nevinral's disc. Also, keep in mind, Nevinral's disc basically was the Wrath of God for every color. So it was a really good card that you could just put in play and kind of slow down what your opponent was doing. Next we have Dismiss. 2 blue for an interrupt, so instant. Counter target spell, draw a card. Great art by Donata Giancola. Great counter spell that replaces itself. We have 4 of those. Next there's Dissipate with that classic Richard Kane Ferguson art. 1 blue for an instant. Counter target spell, remove that spell card from the game. So counter target spell, if it's countered this way, remove it from the game. And we have 2 Dissipate. Next there's Forbid. 1 blue instant. Counter target spell with buyback. Choose and discard 2 cards. Art by Scott Kirshner. So if you're drawing several extra cards a turn, this is a great way to just repeatedly have up a counter spell. So we have 3 Forbid. Yep. Next is Mana Leak. That classic Christopher Rush art. This is my favorite Mana Leak of all time. But 1 in a blue, instant counter target spell unless its caster pays an additional 3. Anyway, it says interrupt. All interrupts were errata to be instants. Counter spells were generally interrupts. We have 3 copies of Mana Leak. We have 1 Memory Lapse. So 1 in a blue, instant counter target spell, put on top of its owner's library. So just a good tempo play. With classic art by Mark Tedden. Again, a lot of these are going to be very iconic arts. Just because of the era that these cards were printed in. Next up we have Counterspell, the quintessential counterspell. Just one of the best ones of all time. Blue, instant counter target spell. With beautiful art by Stephen Danielle. It's just absolutely dazed. I always thought this art would have been better for Daze than Counterspell, but you know, it works too. We have 4 copies of Counterspell. And my favorite version of Force Spike, the Legends printing. So for blue, it's an instant target spell is countered unless its caster pays an additional 1. So counter target spell unless its owner pays 1 more. With the absolutely iconic Legends art by Brian Wakwitz. Very nice. Now, I will say this is my style of deck. I love playing Draw-Go Magic. I've always loved playing Draw-Go Magic. It has always been my favorite archetype since the first time I ever played a deck built on that strategy. And I do know it is one of the most loathed archetypes, but hey, I like what I like. There's nothing like seeing the life drain from your opponent's eyes. Or as I've been apt to say over the years, there is a finite amount of fun at this table, and I want to have all of it. So, yeah, unfortunately, I'm one of those guys. But, as always, thank you for joining me on this adventure. Again, this was the Seattle August 1998 World Championship deck, played by Randy Buehler to 12th place. As always, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff for the algorithm. I really appreciate it. It really helps us out. We are very much a growing channel and trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. So if you're not subscribed, please consider it. If not, you know, that's cool too. But until next time, stay awesome. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.